I'm Keller, McKowen, and this is my wife, Roberta.
We farmed passively while he and I were both working full-time jobs. I was practicing small animal veterinarian, and he was an employee at Exxon Chemical.
I grew up on a farm, a cow-calf operation.
He had inherited some cattle and some land, but we couldn't tell you how many cows we owned or where they were. When Keller proposed the idea of moving out into the country and farming, it took me 15 seconds to agree. Yeah, it was no question.
Bought our first piece of property from my two cousins. We got a few cattle and we just kind of worked our way up to the herd where we are now. And
when I took up a hobby of competitive sheepdog training, I got a few sheep, and so began the story.
I have a cow-calf operation, and she has the sheep.
I currently have 200 production Katahdin ewes, 80 Katahdin Dorper crosses, which we haven't used any dewormer on since 2003. The Katahdin is better suited to my microenvironment, and then I've been choosing these sheep for 13 years. Letting only the strong survive, natural selection. He runs about 150 head of mama cows. Very limited deworming on the cattle too, since the two species complement one another and help to deworm one another environmentally.
So our plan includes the rotational grazing with smaller pastures, soil health and growing good grass, good fencing for her sheep, and water.
Minimizing inputs and marrying nature cycles and the animal cycles, matching those two things up.
It's building a good foundation. Soil health is your foundation, and then your animal health follows.
And I would like to run 500 sheep, would be my ideal goal, but it's still going to require yet another fence.
The sheep got us into building different types of fences. They're a little bit harder to contain.
Just putting a fence across something will give you a 65% increase in the efficiency of the use of that land.
My name is Stuart Gardner. I'm the Area Range Conservationist. I work for USDA, Natural Resources Conservation Service. Breaking your given land area up into smaller pasture. There are many benefits to it. The main one is that the desirable plants get a chance to rest in between grazing periods so that they don't get overgrazed and become diminished and get replaced by less desirable plants.
For 50 cattle, 100 acre pasture, not so good for 50 cows. Divide it into 5 20 acre pastures better. Divide it into 10 acre pastures better. 25 acres. We just noticed a big difference in our in the quality of grass that we've grown since we started 30 years ago. What most people would call weeds, the sheep love, and it's good for them, so I have to bush hog a whole lot less than.
Sheep are 1/5 the size of a cow. Everything about them is a little bit more difficult, so you can use them as a barometer. If you get sheep right, you got cows down. So sheep like to eat a mixture of grass and forbs. Cattle prefer primarily grasses. If we use the sheep and the cattle together, we get a more diverse plant species.
They love tallow trees, sheep do so. Very few tallow trees in the sheep areas where we graze sheep.
Other plants that people would be spending herbicides on, we got sheep. It's a good thing. There was precious little continuing education, support, knowledge, or none offered about sheep. So I would attend the Southern University has a seminar once a year, it was just a goat seminar at that time. And I would attend that. And Stuart Gardner would give lectures about rotational grazing and comparing how Deer, sheep, and goats complement one another for grazing.
They don't host the same parasites. So it breaks the parasite cycle, which basically is the animal defecates and passes the eggs into the manure. Then the eggs hatch and the larvae eat, they live in the manure, and then they get down on the soil surface and they get in the grass. And then the cattle or sheep or goats come along, they bite the grass that's 2 inches or lower, close to the soil surface. They bite that grass, they pick up these little microscopic larvae, and there goes the cycle again. Now the parasite is back in the grazing animal.
So after I tended that for probably 3 years in a row, and would come home and tell Keller about it, and scratch our heads and think, I don't know, yeah, maybe, you want to give this a try? We've been able to increase our organic matter in the soil here about 1 percentage point. We need lime in our soils. So if we have a place under a gate that's wallowed out, he'll put a pile of lime there. Here's an example right here of a management strategy to prevent disease. Since hoof rot is the 3rd biggest problem sheep face, predators, parasites, and then hoof disease. We'll put this lime, and instead of pouring a concrete pad, we intentionally put out big chunks of lime so that they're going to get this packed into their hooves while they're drinking water. They can medicate themselves, preventative maintenance, and improve the soil all at the same time.
One of the best methods is what Miss Roberta does and what I do is we select highly animals that are resistant to it, that don't get foot rot. And we try to keep the offspring of those, and they seem to pass that along. It's important to understand that these bacteria are in the soils, different places. So if I was to go to Oklahoma and buy some hair sheep and bring them down here to South Louisiana, there's about a 90% chance that those animals, most of them would get hoof rot down here because the bacteria that's here is different from the bacteria that's in Oklahoma.
You'll see underneath every tree a population of grasses growing that's a better quality grass. Well, that's because the sheep and the cows pooped there and put your phosphorus and your potassium there.
This is not intensive, but it's more than just turning animals out on grass and letting them eat grass.
If you can manipulate your environment and make a healthier animal, then your life is healthier. Organic matter is the yardstick by which you measure success, by which we measure success.
When I look at my water runoff, in a heavy rain, it's pretty clear. We're not losing a lot of soil.
The animals going in, they're utilizing the top of the forage, and ideally we want to use the top half of the forage and not graze the bottom of it, and then remove the animals. And when that plant has a substantial amount of growth left above the ground, then it can maintain a much deeper and more healthy root system. Therefore, when you do get periods when you don't have adequate rain, say 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks like we get here in Louisiana, the plants are able to have deeper, more fibrous root systems that reach deeper into the soil and can utilize the moisture that's at a deeper level.
You can work for short-term profits or long-term profits. So you get a short-term profit, long-term loss. If you're renting that land, it's not your problem. And it might behoove you to mine the resources and leave nothing behind. Or I am going into business with my son-in-law and my son.
My name is Ross Collins, and I'm married to Agnes Collins.
So last year I gave my son-in-law a generation of sheep.
And he's also started a seed company and markets different kinds of seed.
So our vision is to come down here, work with her parents, and learn what they know, and eventually we want to work ourselves into some niche markets.
So we are starting them off with their own herds.
In this case, you got a couple of people who, well, like they said, they didn't grow up in the traditional hardcore farming world. It's something that they've always held on to and dreamed about, and at this point, over the past 5 years, they've really been able to pursue that. So probably the difference on this farm versus another one is they've really put a lot of money into fencing. And that's for posterity's sake, you know. It gives us an opportunity to talk together too. Usually it starts with business, but we get to chat as well, so that brings us together in that way, which is pretty cool.
Farming is a big gamble. What's right under one set of circumstances is not right under another set of circumstances, and we can't see in the future. Know what you can actually do, not what you would aspire to do, what looks great in the magazine, but what you're actually going to get up and do on Monday morning. And for us, that's smaller pastures, cramming more animals in there for a shorter period of time.
Working with nature and utilizing the natural grasses and forbs that you have and promoting their growth.
You asked us if we were profitable. A big part of that equation is low-cost inputs. If you are not spending money on an emergency basis, putting your finger in the dike, but creating a self-sufficient, sustainable ecosystem, then you're ahead.
We want to get to a point where we have no non-producing animals. Each cow produces a calf every year. Each sheep produces twins, hopefully. That's kind of our goal right now. Passing it on to our kids, and our kids passing it on to theirs. And
this is what she's been working for, and now she's passing it on. So we wanted to continue that as much as they wanted it to be continued.
It's a huge problem with our farms in this country. We sometimes are unable to pass the land down to the children because of various different things, inheritance, taxes, and that type of thing.
We just decided this is the life we want to live, the lifestyle. You know, we want to raise our kids here too. So that was very much something that led us into farming and agriculture.
I have my own motivations for rooting them in the land.
Like what?
Grandbabies. I mean, I just can't think of anything more fun.